They said I was unfit for marriage, and after 12 refusals in 4 years I slowly started to believe them. My name is Elenina Whitmore. I am 22 years old and my legs have been useless since I was 8. It happened because of a riding accident that harmed my spine and left me dependent on a wheelchair my father ordered from a craftsman in Richmond. But it wasn't the chair itself that marked me as unwanted in Virginia society in 1856. It was what the chair represented: damaged goods, a burden. A woman who could not meet the simplest expectations of Southern womanhood, standing beside her husband at social events, giving birth without trouble, running a household on her feet. 12 men, 12 proposals, and my father arranged 12. Refusals that grew sharper and more cruel as my name, as the crippled Whitmore girl, traveled through the planter families of Virginia. But my story is not about my disability. It is about how my father's desperate choice, giving me to an enslaved man everyone called the brute, became the greatest love I ever knew, and how a society that believed I was worthless and believed he was property proved terribly wrong about both of us. Let me take you back to March of 1856, to the moment my father made a choice that changed 3 lives forever. Whitmore Estate rests in the Piedmont region of Virginia, about 20 miles west of Charlottesville, where rolling hills meet thick woods and tobacco fields stretched toward the Blue Ridge Mountains. 5,000 acres of prime farmland, 200 enslaved people, and a house my grandfather built in 1790. 2 stories of red brick, white columns, French crystal chandeliers, and enough rooms that I could go days without seeing my father if we wished to avoid each other. I was born here in 1834, the only child of Colonel Richard Whitmore and his wife Catherine. My mother died 3 days after giving birth to me, taken by childbed fever, leaving my father with a newborn daughter and no wish to marry again. He raised me with a blend of distant affection and strict practicality. My education went far beyond what most Southern girls ever received. He had me taught to read Greek and Latin, to work with numbers, to talk about philosophy and politics. He planned to marry me well, using my learning as a way to draw a wealthy and intelligent husband. Then the accident happened. I was only 8, riding a horse far too spirited for me, because I had begged and my father had finally agreed. The horse jumped when it saw a snake reared up and I fell. I landed on my back across a fallen log, and there was a crack. It wasn't the log, it was my spine. Doctors traveled from Richmond and Philadelphia. They examined me, whispered in corners, and finally gave their decision. The damage was permanent. My legs would never fully work again. I might gain a little feeling, perhaps a small amount of motion, but I would never walk normally, never run, never dance. I would need a wheelchair for the rest of my life. My father ordered the finest chair he could obtain, with a mahogany frame, leather seat, and wheels that moved smoothly across polished floors. He hired tutors to continue my studies, since I could not join social gatherings easily. He altered the house, built ramps, widened doorways, gave me a bedroom on the ground floor, but he could not change Virginia tradition. At 14, while other girls attended dances and picnics, I remained home with my books. At 16, when girls my age became engaged, I watched from windows as the world carried on without me. At 18, my father began his mission to find me a husband. He was 51, still strong, but worried about what would happen to me after his death. "You need protection," he told me. "Someone to look after you, to oversee the land, to be sure you are safe." "I can run the estate," I answered. "You've taught me enough about business and farming." "Lenina," he said gently but firmly, "that is not how society works. A woman alone especially." His eyes lowered to my wheelchair. "You need a husband." The first proposal came from Thomas Aldrich, 35, a tobacco planter from Lynchburg. My father invited him for dinner, introduced me in the parlor, and I saw Thomas's eyes fall from my face to the chair and then dart away. "Miss Whitmore is well educated," my father said. "She reads Greek, speaks French, and manages household accounts with great skill." "Colonel Whitmore," Thomas interrupted. "May I speak with you privately?" They left the room. I knew the pattern already. I heard their quiet voices behind the door. I imagined their words easily. When my father returned alone, he said, "Mr. Aldrich has declined. He feels the match is not suitable because I can't walk." I said, "Say it, father, because I am crippled, because I am broken, because I am useless." "You are not useless." But his eyes showed he understood that the world believed otherwise. The second proposal arrived 3 months later from James Morrison, 40, a widower with 3 children. Their discussion in my father's study lasted longer this time. I heard raised voices, heard my father trying to persuade him. But the ending was the same. Morrison left and looked at me with pity. Miss Whitmore, you seem a kind young lady, but my children need a mother who can keep up with them. I'm sorry. The third, fourth, and fifth proposals came during 1853 and 1854, each rejection cut in a different way. I need a wife who can stand beside me at gatherings. The wedding would be strange. How would she walk down the aisle? I heard she cannot have children. What would be the use of marrying? That last rumor hurt the worst. A doctor, who had never examined me, had suggested my injury might affect childbirth. The gossip raced across Virginia. Soon I wasn't only disabled. People believed I was barren. I tried to correct it. The doctors in Philadelphia told me my organs are normal. I insisted, but reputations ignore truth. Once marked as unable to have children, I might as well have been marked cursed by 155. My father was desperate. He wrote to men from other states, North Carolina, Maryland, Kentucky. He lowered standards for wealth and rank. He increased dowies. Still, the answers were no. Rejection number 9 came in January 1856 from William Foster, a man my father knew through business. Foster was 50, heavy, twice widowed, rumored to drink too much. My father offered him $5,000, almost a third of our yearly income. Foster inspected the property, met with lawyers, read through contracts. Then he met me. Can you sew? He asked. No, sir. My handshake. Can you cook? No, I never learned the kitchen as staff. Can you manage servants? I can give orders from my chair. He turned to my father. Colonel, your daughter is pleasant, but I require a wife who can do a woman's normal work. This cannot happen. After he left, I found my father, sitting in his study, staring blankly, a glass of bourbon beside him. Father, you can stop. I don't need 12 proposals. Lenina, he said, sounding hollow. I have arranged 12 proposals in 4 years. Every man refused, some softly, others cry, but all with the same message. You are not worth marrying. His words landed like blows. Then I won't marry, I said. I'll stay here and help you manage things. I'm 55, he said. I could die tomorrow or live 20 more years, but I will die. And then our male relatives will inherit everything. Do you think your cousin Robert will keep you here? He'll sell the estate, give you a small sum, and send you to a boarding house to live on charity. Then leave the land to me. I can't. Virginia law forbids it. Women cannot own property alone, especially unmarried women, and especially. He didn't finish, but we both understood. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to cry. Then what do you expect me to do? He took a long drink. I don't know, but I will not let you be unprotected. That was in February 1856. 4 weeks later, he told me his solution. That night, as I lay in my bed, I tried to imagine what my life might look like in the years ahead. I had heard people talk about Josiah for as long as I could remember. Everyone living on the estate knew of the man they called the Brute. He was huge, more than 70 tall, with shoulders wide as a barn beam and hands that looked strong enough to bend iron. He spent his days in the blacksmith workshop, shaping horseshoes, metal tools, wagon parts, and anything else that demanded strength. People were frightened of him. Enslaved workers quickly moved aside when he approached. Even white visitors stared at him with expressions mixed with shock and nervousness, and my father somehow expected me to become his wife. I tried to picture it. Tried to imagine living beside a man I had never spoken to. A man who by law belonged to another. A man who looked powerful enough to snap me in half without realizing it. I tried, forcing my mind to see him as a husband. Someone who would stand guard over me. Someone I would rely on when my father was no longer alive. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't move past the fear, the strangeness, the deep impossibility of the idea. But when the night passed and the early light came through my window, and I still had not slept, one thought settled heavy. My mind, if my only choices were a future depending on relatives who saw me as nothing but a burden, or a future tied to a man my father trusted more than anyone, then maybe this extreme choice was the last option left to me. Tomorrow I would meet Josiah, and then we would see if my father's desperate plan had even a tiny chance of working. They brought Josiah to the house the next morning, and my very first thought was, "Dear God, he is impossibly big." I was waiting in the parlor near the window in my wheelchair when I heard slow, heavy steps drawing closer. My father entered first, and behind him came a figure so tall he had to lower his head and actually bend his shoulders to get through the doorway. Josiah stood at least 7 feet tall, broad enough that his shoulders nearly touched both sides of the frame. He must have weighed close to 300 lom, but none of it looked soft. It was all muscle-hardened from years of swinging hammers and working near fire. His hands were huge, covered with scars from heat and blades. Hands that looked capable of crushing a metal bar as if it were a dry twig. His face was dark and roughened by weather and long days of work, with a thick beard and eyes that moved around the room almost shyly, never settling on me for more than a second. His clothing was simple and worn, a rough cotton shirt and trousers stretched tight across his massive frame. He kept his hands together, head bowed, standing the way enslaved men were expected to stand in a white household. The nickname the Brute seemed almost fitting. He looked like he could tear down the walls with nothing but his strength. My father cleared his throat. "Josiah, this is my daughter, Eleanor." Josiah's eyes flicked toward me for a breath of a moment, then dropped back to the floor. "Yes, sir," he said. His voice surprised me. It was softer than I expected for such a large man. Deep but quiet, almost gentle in tone. "Alina," my father said, "I've explained the situation to Josiah. He understands that he would be responsible for your protection and your care." I finally found my voice, though it trembled when I used it. "Josiah, do you understand what my father is suggesting?" Another brief glance at me, then his gaze returned to the floor. "Yes, miss. I'm supposed to be your husband, to look after you, to help you." Then he paused, looking confused, as if the idea that his agreement mattered was foreign to him. The colonel said, "I should agree, miss, but do you want this?" Even he seemed startled by his own question. For the first time, his eyes stayed on mine. They were dark brown, unexpectedly soft, for such a powerful face. "I don't know what I want, miss," he admitted. "I'm a slave. What I want usually doesn't matter." His simple honesty struck sharply. My father stepped in. "Eleanor, maybe you and Josiah should speak privately. I'll be in my study." He left the room, closing the door behind him. Suddenly, I was alone with a 7th enslaved man who was supposed to become my husband. The silence between us stretched, heavy and uncertain. Josiah stood stiffly, unsure of himself. I felt equally lost. What could I possibly say to someone who had been placed before me like an object I was expected to accept? "Would you like to sit?" I asked, gesturing toward a chair across from me. He stared at the delicate chair with its slender legs and soft cushions, then looked down at his own enormous body. "I don't think that chair would hold me, miss." "The sofa." Then he sat carefully on the edge of it. It groaned under his weight, but did not break. Even sitting, he was taller than many men when they stood. His large hands rested on his knees, and I found myself staring. Each finger looked thick as a tool handle covered in caul, uses and burns. Hands that looked like they could break stone. "Are you frightened of me, miss?" he asked quietly. "Should I be? I would never harm you. I swear it. They call you the Brute." I said. He winced. "Yes, miss, because I'm big, because I look scary. But I'm not brutal. I've never hurt anyone. Not on purpose. But you could if you wanted to." "I could," he said, meeting my eyes again. "But I wouldn't. Not you. Not anyone who doesn't deserve it." There was something in his gaze, something sad and gentle, that didn't match the harsh image others held of him. I took a breath. I had to be honest. "Josiah, I don't want this any more than you do. We're strangers. My father is doing this because he's desperate. Because no one will marry me and he thinks you are the only possible solution. But if we're going to attempt this, if we're to live under one roof, share whatever future this becomes, I need to know something. Are you dangerous?" "No, miss." "Were you cruel?" "No, miss." "Would you ever hurt me?" "Never, miss. I promise with everything I still believe in, I would never harm you." His sincerity was unmistakable. "One more question. Can you read?" He froze. His eyes widened, fear flickering there. Why do you ask?" "My father said he saw you reading." "Is it true?" Josiah stayed quiet for a long time. Reading was forbidden for enslaved people in Virginia, admitting it was risky. Finally, he nodded slightly. "Yes, miss. I can read. I taught myself when I was young. I know I'm not supposed to, but I wanted to learn. Books are..." He paused, searching for words. "They're like doors to places I'll never go, to thoughts I'll never live myself." "What do you read?" "Anything I can find, miss. Old newspapers, sometimes books other slaves find." I read slowly. "No one taught me proper, but I still read." "Have you read Shakespeare?" He blinked in shock. "Yes, miss. There's an old copy in the library. No one touches. I've read it at night when everyone's asleep." "Which plays Hamlet?" "Romeo and Juliet, The Tempest." His voice gained a brightness I hadn't heard before. "The Tempest is the best. Prospero using magic to control that island. Ariel asking for freedom. Caliban being called a monster, though he might be more human than the rest." He stopped abruptly, remembering his place. "Sorry, miss, I'm talking too much." "No, I said, smiling for the first time in days, and it felt real. "Keep going. Tell me about Caliban." And something almost unbelievable happened. Josiah, the giant man everyone called monstrous, spoke about Shakespeare with clarity and depth. That would impress any learned scholar. He explained that Caliban was called a beast, but the truth was he was enslaved, his home taken from him, his mother's power dismissed as wicked. Prospero called him savage, yet Prospero was the one who stole his life. So who is the real monster? Josiah asked gently. I listened, fascinated. You feel sympathy for Caliban. I see him as human, miss. Someone treated as less but still human like enslaved people. I whispered. Yes, miss. We talked for nearly 2 hours about books, ideas, stories. Josiah knew pieces and scraps he had gathered alone, but his mind was sharp and hungry. Slowly, piece by piece, my fear dissolved. This man was not any brute. He was thoughtful, kind, intelligent, trapped inside a body the world judged without mercy. As the conversation came to its end, I said, Josiah, if we do this, if we become whatever my father imagines, I need you to know something. I don't see you as a brute. I don't see you as a monster. See someone forced into an impossible place just like me. His eyes shone with emotion. Thank you, miss. Call me Elena and Nana when we're alone. Call me Ilya Nana. I shouldn't, miss. It isn't proper. None of this is proper. If we're to be husband and wife or something close to it, you should use my name. He nodded slowly. Elenina. My name in his deep, soft voice sounded unexpectedly lovely. And there's something you should hear too, he added quietly. I don't think you're unmarriageable. I think the men who refused you were blind. Any man who can't see past a wheelchair to the person you are does not deserve you. It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in 4 long years. Will you do this, Josiah? Will you accept my father's plan? Yes, he said at once. I'll protect you, I'll care for you, and I'll truly try to be worthy of you. And I'll do my best to make this life bearable for both of us. We sealed the strange agreement with a handshake. His huge hand closed around mine, warm and surprisingly gentle. My father's shocking idea suddenly felt slightly less impossible. If this story of Eleanor and Josiah touches you, and if you wish to see where this unusual connection leads next, leave a comment saying where you're watching from. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this incredible journey between 2 people society cast aside, who somehow found unexpected care for one another. Now let us continue. The arrangement officially began on April 1st, 1856. My father held a small ceremony, not a real marriage by law, since enslaved people had no legal right to marry. Certainly not the kind of wedding white society would ever allow between a white woman and a black man. But he gathered the household staff, read a few Bible verses, and stated that Josiah would now be responsible for Eleanor's safety and care. He speaks with my power about anything concerning Eleanor. My father said to both the enslaved people and the white overseers, give I'm the respect this job deserves. A room was prepared for Josiah right next to mine, joined by a door but still separate enough to pretend we were being proper. He brought his few things from the slave quarters, some clothes, a handful of books he had secretly saved, and a couple of tools from the forge. The early weeks were quiet and strange. We barely knew one another and were trying to figure out an impossible new life. I had always been helped by female servants. He had always done heavy labor in the forge. Now he was in charge of things no one expected, helping me dress, lifting me when my wheelchair could not manage, assisting with personal matters I never imagined discussing with any man. But Josiah handled every duty with a kindness and grace that amazed me. If he needed to carry me, he asked first. If he helped me dress, he turned his face away whenever he could. When he assisted with private matters, he did everything possible to keep my pride intact, even when the situation itself felt shameful. I know this is hard, I told him after one especially awkward morning. I know you never asked for this. Neither did you, he replied. He was fixing my bookshelf because I had mentioned wanting the books organized alphabetically, and he had taken on the task without being asked. But we are doing our best, aren't we? He looked at me, his large shape somehow gentle as he knelt beside the shelf. Lena, I have been enslaved my whole life. I have done work in heat that could kill anyone. I have been whipped for mistakes, sold from my family, treated like an animal with hands. This, he said, motioning around the quiet room. Living here, helping someone who treats me like a human being, having books, having conversation. This is not a burden. But you are still enslaved, yes? He said softly. But I would rather be enslaved here with you than free somewhere far away and alone. Then he went back to sorting the books. Was it wrong to say that? I do not think so. I think it was the truth. By the end of April, we had found our new routine. In the mornings, Josiah helped with my preparations, then carried me to breakfast. Afterward, he returned to the forge because my father still needed his blacksmith, and I worked on letters and house accounts in the library. In the afternoons, Josiah came back and we spent time together. Sometimes I watched him work, amazed at how he shaped glowing iron into useful items. Sometimes he read to me, his reading improving fast thanks to the library and my lessons. In the evenings, we talked about everything. His childhood on another plantation, his mother who was sold away when he was 10, his distant dreams of freedom that felt almost impossible. And I told him about my mother who died when I was born, about the accident that broke my spine, about feeling trapped in a body that did not listen to me and in a society that did not want me. We were two forgotten souls finding peace in each other. Then in May, something changed. I was watching Josiah at the forge, as I often did. He was working on new hinges for the barn, heating metal until it glowed and hammering it into shape with steady strikes. "Can I try?" I asked suddenly. He looked up, surprised. "Try what?" "Forge work, hitting the metal." "Alano, it is dangerous and hot, and I have never done anything physical because everyone thinks I am fragile, but maybe with your help." He watched me for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, I will make it safe." He rolled my wheelchair closer to the anvil, heated a small piece of iron and placed it there. Then he handed me a smaller hammer, still heavy but possible. "Strike right here. Do not worry about strength. Just feel the metal move." I swung. The hammer made a weak sound and barely marked the iron again. "Use your shoulders." I swung harder. This time the metal moved slightly. "Good again." I hit it again and again. My arms burned. My shoulders ached. Sweat dripped down my face. But I was doing something physical, me shaping metal with my own effort. When the iron cooled, Josiah held up the bent piece. "Your first creation. It is small, but you made it." I started crying and laughing at the same time. "I made something with strength." "You are stronger than you think," he said. "You always were. You just needed the right task." From that day on, I spent hours learning at the forge. Josiah taught me everything. How to heat metal, how to strike it, how to shape it. I could not do heavy pieces, but I made hooks, tiny tools, simple decorations. For the first time since the accident 14 years earlier, I felt physically capable. My legs did not work, but my arms did, and that was enough for forging. Then June brought something entirely different. One evening we were in the library. Josiah was reading Keats aloud. His reading had grown so much that he could handle harder texts now. His deep voice fit the poetry perfectly. "A thing of beauty is a joy forever," he read. "Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness." "Do you believe that?" I asked. "That beauty stays. I think beauty stays in memory." He said, "The thing may fade, but the memory stays." "What is the most beautiful thing you have ever seen?" He was silent for a moment. "You yesterday at the forge, covered in soot, sweating, laughing while you hammered. That was beautiful." My heart skipped a beat. "Josiah, I am sorry. I should not." I rolled my chair closer to him. "Say it again. You were beautiful. You are beautiful. You have always been beautiful. Eleanor, the wheelchair does not change that. Your legs do not change that. You are smart and brave and kind, and yes, physically beautiful too. The 12 men who turned you away were fools. They saw a chair and stopped seeing you. They never saw the woman who learned Greek, who reads philosophy for fun, who forged iron with her own hands. They did not see because they did not want to. See, I reached for his hand, huge, scarred, strong enough to bend iron, but holding mine like something delicate.
Do you see me, Josiah?
Yes, I see all of you, and you are the most beautiful person I have ever met. I think I am falling in love with you." The words sat between us, dangerous and impossible. A white woman and an enslaved black man in Virginia, 1856. There was no place for such a thing. "Eleanor," he said slowly, "you cannot. We cannot. If anyone found out, they would. They would." "What?" "We already live together. My father already placed me in your care. What changes if I love you?" "Safety," he whispered. "Your safety and mine. If people think this arrangement is affection instead of duty, I do not care what people think." I touched his face, reaching up because he was still taller than I could easily reach. "I care what I feel, and what I feel is love. For the first time, someone sees me, truly sees me. Not the chair, not what I cannot do, not the burden. You see Eleanor and I see Josiah. Not the slave, not the brute, but the man who reads poetry, shapes iron, and treats me with more kindness than any free man ever has. If your father knew. My father set this in motion. He put us together. Whatever happens is partly because of him." I leaned forward. "Josiah, if you do not feel the same, I understand. I know this is dangerous and confusing. Maybe I am lonely. Maybe I am foolish, but I needed to say it." He was silent so long, I thought I had destroyed everything. Then he said, "I have loved you since our first real talk. When you asked about Shakespeare and actually listened when you treated me like my thoughts mattered. I have loved you every day since L.A. Honor, I just never believed I could speak it aloud. Say it now. I love you." We kissed. My first kiss at 22 with a man society said should not exist, beside me in a library filled with books that would all condemn us. It was perfect. For the next 5 months we lived, inside a delicate bubble of secret happiness. We were careful, never showing anything in public, pretending to be ward and guardian but alone. We were simply two people in love. My father either did not notice or chose not to. He saw I was happier. He saw Josiah was dedicated. He saw the arrangement was successful. He never questioned how often we were alone or the look in Josiah's eyes or the way I smiled. In those months we built a life. I kept improving at the forge, making more detailed pieces under Josiah's guidance. He kept reading, devouring the library, growing sharper in philosophy and literature. We talked endlessly about dreams, about a world that might one day let us be who we already were together, about futures we were not sure we would ever get to live, about the impossibility of those dreams, about finding comfort in the present, even when the future felt unsure. And yes, we shared intimacy. I will not describe the private moments between two people who love each other. But I will say this, Josiah approached closeness the same way he approached everything with me, with remarkable gentleness, with attention to my well-being, with a kind of respect that made me feel treasured instead of taken advantage of. By October, we had built our own little world inside the strange space society forced us into. We were happy in ways neither of us expected could ever be real. Then my father learned the truth. It was December 15th, 1856. Josiah and I were in the library, completely absorbed in each other, kissing freely like people who believed no one was around. We did not hear my father's stay. P.S. did not hear the door crack open. Eleanor, his voice was as cold as winter ice. We jerked apart, guilty and terrified. My father stood in the doorway, his face a mix of outrage, disbelief, and something else I could not understand. "Father, I can explain. You are in love with him." It was not a question. It was an accusation. Josiah instantly dropped to his knees. "Sir, please. This is my responsibility. I should never have." "Be silent, Josiah." My father's voice was calm in the most dangerous way. He turned toward me. "Eleanor, is this true? Do you love this enslaved man?" I could have lied. Could have said Josiah forced himself on me, that I was innocent. It would have saved me and sent Josiah to torture and death. I could not do it. "Yes, I love him and he loves me. And before you threaten him, know this was mutual." I kissed him first. I wanted this relationship. If someone must be punished, then punish me. My father's face shifted through emotions, anger, denial, confusion. At last, he said, "Josiah, go to your room. Do not come out until I call for you." "Sir, now." Josiah left, giving me one painful, frightened look before the door closed. I was alone with my father. "Do you understand what you have done?" he asked quietly. "I have fallen in love with a good man who treats me with dignity and kindness. You have fallen in love with property, with a slave. Eleanor, if anyone hears about this, you will be ruined beyond repair. They will call you insane, corrupted, unnatural. They already call me damaged and unmarriageable. How is this different? The difference is safety. I gave you to Josiah for safety, not for this. Then you should not have placed us together. You should not have given me to a man intelligent and gentle and thoughtful if you did not want me to care for him." We were nearly shouting now, years of held-in feelings spilling out. "I wanted you safe, not chamois." He snapped. "I am safe. Safer than ever. Josiah would die before letting harm come to me. And what happens when I die? When the estate goes to your cousin? Do you think Robert will allow you to keep an enslaved man as your husband? He will sell Josiah the moment I am buried and lock you away somewhere. Then free him. Free us, leave. We will go north. The north is not some paradise. Eleanor, a white woman with a black man. Free or not, we will face hatred everywhere. You think life is hard now? Try living as an interracial couple. I do not care." "Well, I care," he said, voice breaking. "I am your father. I have spent your whole life trying to shield you from cruelty. I will not sit and watch you walk into something that could destroy you. Being without Josiah will destroy me. Can you not see that? I am finally happy. For the first time ever, I feel loved and valued for who I am. And you want to take that away because society claims it is wrong." My father sank into a chair, suddenly looking older, worn down by years. "What do you want from me?" "Eleanor, I want you to bless this. I want you to accept it. I want you to understand that I love him, that he loves me, and nothing you do will erase that." Silence filled the room. Outside, December wind rattled the window panes. Somewhere in the house, Josiah waited, unaware of what would happen to him. Finally, my father said I could sell him, send him south. Make sure you never see him again. My heart froze. "Father, please let me finish." He stared at me with tired eyes. I could sell him. That would be the proper response. Keep you apart. Pretend none of this occurred. Find a new arrangement for you. Please do not. But I will not. He lifted a hand. I will not, because I have watched you these past 9 months. You have smiled more with Josiah than you have in 14 years. You've grown stronger, brighter, and I have seen how he looks at you as if you are the most precious thing on earth. Hope warmed my chest. "Father, I do not understand this," he admitted. "I do not like it. It goes against everything I was raised to believe." He rubbed his face. "But you are right. I placed you with him. I created this situation. Thinking you would not form a real bond was foolish. So what are you saying?" "I am saying I need time to think. To find a solution that does not leave either of you broken." He stood. "But you must understand something, Eleanor. If you stay with him, there is no future for you here. Not in Virginia, not anywhere in the South. Are you prepared for that? If it means being with Josiah, yes." He nodded slowly. "Then I will find a way. I do not know how yet, but I will try." He left me in the library, heart racing, hope and fear tangled inside me. Josiah returned an hour later, and we told him everything. He collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed. "He is not going to sell me. No, he said he will try to help us." Josiah bowed his head and cried deep, shaking sobs of relief. I held him as best I could, and together we clung to the fragile thought that maybe the impossible could become real. My father spent 2 months thinking, planning 2 months, while Josiah and I lived with a constant ache in our chests, waiting. We worked, read, talked as usual, but everything felt temporary. Finally, in late February 1857, he called us to his study. "I have made my choice," he said plainly. We sat across from him, me in my wheelchair, Josiah perched on a chair, too small for him, our hands linked despite the rules. "There is no way for this to work in Virginia or anywhere in the South. Society will not allow it, and the law forbids it. If Josiah stays here, even as your declared guardian, people will whisper. Eventually someone will dig deeper and both of you will be ruined." My heart sank. It sounded like the start of goodbye. So he said, "I am offering another path. Josiah, I will free you legally, formally with official papers recognized in every northern court. Eleanor, I will give you 5,000, enough to begin a new life. I will also provide letters of introduction to abolitionist friends in Philadelphia who can help you find a place there." I could not breathe. "You are freeing him?" "Yes, and allowing us to go north together." Josiah let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Sir, I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything. Josiah, you have protected my daughter better than any white man would have. You have made her joyful, confident. In exchange, I am giving you freedom and the woman you love." "Father," I whispered, tears rolling down my face. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. It will not be simple. Philadelphia has abolitionists who will welcome you, but prejudice still exists. Eleanor, people will judge you for being a white woman married to a black man." He paused. "Yes, married. I will arrange a valid marriage before you depart." "I am certain," I said. Josiah nodded, voice breaking. "Sir, I will spend my life making sure she never regrets this. I will guard her, work for her, love her always." My father nodded. Then we continue. The following week was busy. My father worked with lawyers to prepare Josiah's freedom papers, documents proving he was a free man who needed no permission to travel. He arranged our marriage through a private minister in Richmond who quietly supported abolition. The ceremony was small. My father and 2 witnesses watched as Josiah and I spoke our vows. I became Eleanor Whitmore Freeman, keeping both names to honor my father and embrace my new life. Josiah became Josiah Freeman, a man free in law as well as heart. We left Virginia on March 15, 1857, in a carriage my father provided. Our belongings filled only 2 trunks, clothes, a few books, Josiah's tools, and the documents proving his freedom. My father hugged me tightly. "Write to me," he said. "Tell me you are safe. Tell me you are content. I will, Father. I love you too, Layla. Go now, build something good." Josiah shook his hand. "Sir, I will protect her always. Josiah, that is all I ask." With my life, we traveled through Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, each mile carrying us closer to a life no one could take from us. Josiah kept expecting to be stopped, questioned, but the papers held firm. We crossed into Pennsylvania without trouble. Philadelphia in 1857 was a busy city of nearly 300,000 people, including a large free black community in neighborhoods like Mother Bethel. With the help of my father's abolitionist contacts, we found a ample home in an area where interracial couples, though not common, were not unheard of. Josiah opened a blacksmith shop using some of the money my father gave us. His skill, reliability, and strength made him well known quickly. Within a year, Freeman's Forge was one of the most active shops in the district. I managed the business, keeping accounts, speaking with customers, arranging contracts. The education and mind that Virginia said were useless became essential to our success. We welcomed our first child in November 1858, a boy we named Thomas after my father's middle name. He was healthy and perfect, and seeing Josiah hold our son for the first time. Time passed, and as I watched this gentleman hold our tiny baby with infinite care, I knew we had made the right choice. 4 more children followed. William was born in 1860, Margaret in 1863, James in 1865, and Elizabeth in 1868. We raised them in freedom, teaching them to be proud of both sides of their heritage, and sent them to schools that welcomed black children and accommodated my legs. In 1865, Josiah created a walking aid, metal braces that attached to my legs and connected to a support around my waist. With these braces and crutches, I could stand and walk awkwardly. But truly, for the first time since I was 8, I walked. "You have given me so much," I told Josiah that day, tears streaming down my face in our home. "You gave me love, confidence, and children, and now you have literally made me walk." "You always walked, Eleanor," he said, studying me as I took shaky steps. "I just gave you different tools." My father visited twice in 1862 and 1869. He met his grandchildren, saw our home, our business, our life. He saw that we were happy, that his radical plan had worked beyond anyone's expectations. He passed away in 1870, leaving his estate to my cousin Robert as Virginia law required. But he left me a letter. "Dearest Eleanor, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I want you to know that giving you to Josiah was the smartest choice I ever made. I thought I was arranging protection. I did not realize I was arranging love. You were never unmarriageable. Society was too blind to see your worth. Thank God Josiah was not. Live well, my daughter. Be happy. You deserve it. Love, Father." Josiah and I lived together in Philadelphia for 38 years. We grew old together, watched our children become adults, welcomed grandchildren, and built a legacy from the impossible situation we had been placed in. I died on March 15, 1895, exactly 38 years after leaving Virginia. Sickness took me swiftly. My last words to Josiah as he held my hand were, "Thank you for seeing me, for loving me, for making me whole." Josiah passed the next day, March 16, 1895. The doctor said his heart simply stopped. But our children knew the truth. He could not live without me, just as I could not have lived without him. We are buried together in Eden Cemetery, in Philadelphia, under a shared headstone that reads, Eleanor and Josiah Freeman, married 1857, died 1895. Love that defied impossibility. Our 5 children all had successful lives. Thomas became a doctor. William became a lawyer who fought for civil rights. Margaret became a teacher, educating thousands of black children. James became an engineer who designed buildings across Philadelphia. Elizabeth became a writer in 1920. Elizabeth published a book, My Mother, The Brute and the Love That Changed Everything, telling our story. The white society called me unmarriageable. Society called Josiah a brute. And yet, a desperate father's radical solution created one of the most remarkable love stories of the 19th century. This is the story of Eleanor Whitmore and Josiah Freeman, whose marriage began in March 1857 in Richmond, Virginia, India, when Colonel Richard Whitmore freed Josiah and arranged his daughter Eleanor's marriage to him before helping them move to Philadelphia. Historical records show Josiah's freedom papers, their marriage certificate, and the establishment of Freeman's Forge in Philadelphia in 1857. They had 5 children between 1858 and 1868, all documented in Philadelphia birth records. Eleanor's improved mobility through orthopedic devices is preserved in letters from the Freeman family. Both died in March 1895 within 1 day of each other and are buried in Eden Cemetery in Philadelphia. Elizabeth Freeman published their story in 1920, which became an important historical account of interracial marriage and disability in the 19th century. The Freeman family kept detailed records including Colonel Whitmore's letters and Josiah's freedom papers donated to the Historical Society of Pennsylvania in 1965. Their story is studied as an example of both disability rights history and interracial relationship history during the slavery era. The story of Eleanor and Josiah Freeman is one of the most extraordinary and radical love stories from the slavery era. It is a tale of 2 people society discarded, a desperate father's unprecedented decision, and a love that proved everyone wrong about what was possible. Eleanor was called unmarriageable because of her disability. 12 men rejected her before her father made the bold choice to give her to an enslaved man. Josiah was called a brute because of his size. But under that scary exterior was a gentle, intelligent man who read Shakespeare in secret and treated Eleanor with more respect than any free man ever had. Their story challenges assumptions about disability, race, and worthiness of love. Eleanor was not broken because her legs did not work. She was brilliant, capable, and strong. Josiah was not a brute because of his size. He was poetic, thoughtful, and extremely gentle. Colonel Whitmore's decision, shocking as it was, showed a radical understanding that his daughter needed love and respect more than social approval. He freed Josiah, gave them money and connections, and sent them north to create the life Virginia would never allow. They lived together for 38 years, raised 5 successful children, built a thriving business, and died within a day of each other because their love was so complete that neither could live without the other. If Eleanor and Josiah's story moves you, if you believe love should go beyond social barriers, if you believe people are more than society's labels, and if you believe radical decisions can lead to beautiful outcomes, subscribe now to learn more hidden histories that textbooks ignore. These are the stories of people who overcame impossible odds, showing that love, intelligence, and dignity matter more than society's rules. Leave a comment now. What moves you most about Eleanor and Josiah's story? Their father's radical decision, their unexpected love, or the fact they built a successful life despite all obstacles? Share your thoughts to keep this powerful story alive. Your engagement, comments, subscriptions, and shares ensure that stories like theirs are not forgotten, helping us remember complex, beautiful, defiant histories that challenge assumptions about the past. Subscribe, leave a comment, and get ready for more stories that prove love and human dignity can triumph even in the darkest times.